Hey, how's it going, everybody? How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Chicago. Here we are, Fullerton. We're just west of Clark Street. Let's check the date and the time here. We got Wednesday, September 17th, 2025, 6:41 in the AM. We're heading to work here, and nice temperature. I'm walking in shorts, mid 60s. Every day is a carbon copy of the other. That's what September weather's like. It's pretty nice here. We'll get up to maybe 80. Sunshine, I think. I didn't see if there's any rain there. But hey, Michael, how you doing there? Raven, CJ's mommy. Thanks for tuning in here. Happy Wednesday, hump day. Yeah, we'll head down Cleveland. I'll probably just make a straight southerly course here. We'll go through the backside of Old Town. We might up at Clybourn there. Maybe walk down Orleans. There's the new construction where the Cynical used to be. Izzy, how you doing there? Eric, Nancy, Michael, Taco. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Taco Jalapeno Salsa. Yeah, we'll go past the Twin Sisters there. Yeah, wide Lincoln Park lots. That used to be the Cynical. Building new housing, smell of new construction. Treated lumber. Here's the Twin Sisters. Date back to the Great Chicago Fire. And got their nice yards. Sounds like the cicadas are sleeping there. Look at that. See, there's a leaf hanging in the middle of the air there because of spider web. Saw some amazingly large orb spider webs throughout the park and trees, even on the streets here. Yeah, they're working on this building. They were working on it even a month ago. There's the one with the faces. Cleveland Street, just south of Fullerton. We start our walks and indoor walks sometimes right here. Such a beautiful street with the landscaping. But tea lime, tea time. How you doing there? Yeah, thanks for tuning in here. We'll walk to work here. Walking and talking. But wow, look at all this garbage. Got all the garbage sitting out here. Hey, yeah, this nice round porch. Get the round brick behind the round porch, stained glass windows. It's all just some commercial Halloween displays for businesses. I know it's middle of September, but I did see some Halloween decorations earlier in the month already. It's amazing. Just had lunch? Oh, are you in a different time zone there? That's good. Katrina, how you doing there? Yeah, thanks everybody for finding me on YouTube. I know some of my audience is probably angry with me for not being on TikTok, but you know, I was talking with Anita with this yesterday, just, you know, offline there, messaged each other. She knows, and Sarah knew. Sarah passed away last year. A little after this time, and she knew I wanted to make the switch even back then, and she was like, you're not even gonna stay on TikTok to let me say goodbye. And it choked me up because she knew her time was short, and so we stayed on TikTok for another year because we had such a great community there. But I telegraphed and let people know and talked about it for a month, told people to cancel their TikTok subscriptions if you subscribe. And then I've been doing lunchtime lives on YouTube for 2 years. The lunch bunch, we would consistently do YouTube at lunch, and we just expanded it to morning and evenings. And people are still messaging me, and they're like, why aren't you on TikTok? I'm like, you must not be watching the broadcast because I've been talking about this. And it's amazing how then suddenly you don't realize something's gone until it's gone. And it's gone, baby, gone. But we're still here on YouTube. I'll still post reruns to TikTok. That's what we're doing. I got one ready to go later this morning. That one, the Board of Trade. It takes a while for the videos to process on YouTube, and then I can whittle them down and turn them into shorts and transfer them over to YouTube. We were doing the opposite. We were streaming mostly on TikTok, except for lunch, and then we would take and I was bad about taking the TikTok reruns and taking them to YouTube, but this will incentivize me and motivate me to Hey, how you doing there? I'm on YouTube now. I'm on YouTube now. That's great. That's good. Thanks for tuning in there. That's good. See, and that's why it's happening often. People will give shout outs and they'll be like, "You're the guy from TikTok," and now I'm on YouTube. So explain that. And I ruined my brand, Darren Monroe. But Darren Monroe gave me advice to switch to YouTube a long time ago. So did this Gemini. YouTube's hard. YouTube's hard to live stream on. It's hard to get you can get much more, a bigger audience on TikTok, but it's still worth it. We'll see what wins out there. Wes, that's good. Good. Yeah, you got tired. You got rid of TikTok a year ago. Yeah, that's good. Well, thanks for still watching here, Wes. I appreciate it there. Yeah, I'm not the only one. We're in good company. A lot of people are, and we're still, even though I know people message me that it was extended yet again by the president, that it wouldn't surprise me if they really crack down on free speech on TikTok if the government has anything to do with it, because they already want to do it in the wake of what happened last week in Utah. And you would think calmer heads would prevail and they would lower the temperature. But if you saw I saw clips. I didn't watch it live. I wasn't even aware it was going on. Kash Patel was in, I think that was already scheduled, where he had to go in front of the Senate and be grilled, which always happens with the opposition party, but just turned into Peter Schiff and Cory Booker yelling at Kash Patel and Kash Patel yelling back, and everybody talking over each other, and nobody's positions or minds are changed. Everybody just doubles down, turns our whole government rule of order into a mockery. It wouldn't surprise me if one day we wake up and in Congress they'll be fighting like the South Korean Parliament there, or House of Representatives. What they got, the Kash Patel, the FBI director, will be physically assaulting Cory Booker, and they'll be having a fight on the halls of Congress there, and that kind of same thing happened. I don't want to even talk about, the 1850s parallels, but that's enough about that. So here, let's go down Cleveland Street here, Lincoln Park, Chicago. We got a beautiful day, mid-60s, Wednesday, September 18th. Hey, the Cubs' magic number is 1. It shows you how quickly things can develop. The Cubs beat the Pirates 4-1 yesterday, and no, it's September 17th. September 17th. Today's September 17th. I'm losing track of the time. There's that round. Look at that round window here on Cleveland Street. Yeah, they renovated that. This beautiful housing here. These row houses. Nice gardens here. Krista, how you doing there? Taco, jalapeno salsa. Prince, how you doing there? Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Grace, yeah. Miss anybody? CSEP, thanks for tuning in there. Hey, we got some sirens. It's a fire truck heading down Armitage. There is a fire station on Armitage. I bet that's where that came from. Here's the Carnival Grocery here, this 6-way intersection. The Gemini. This Gemini. Yeah, Danucci's across Lincoln Avenue here. They got the bike paths. There's the Carnival Grocery there. 6-way intersection. So, hey, it's good to be back in Chicago. Been walking around the loop there, seeing all the new developments. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be going on this weekend. I think there's a arts festival in the West Loop, Saturday and Sunday, Navy Pier. There's some stuff going on. Wrigleyville, they're going to try to have some Oktoberfest. I think next weekend they're going to have Oktoberfest in Old Town. I'm sure there'll be other stuff throughout the city. I saw Millennium Park beer garden was kind of decorated for Oktoberfest, which usually happens in September. Cincinnati has a good Oktoberfest, of course, of the German-American influence in that city. But friends, morning all, how you doing there? Still getting used to YouTube. Yeah, we're all getting used to YouTube. There's things, you know, like people could directly reply to people. You could put, you know, just reply to, you saw somebody with the chat, you want to talk to them, it would say, you know, responding to this person. Positive, negatives, everything. There's things about YouTube that are better than TikTok, and there's things about TikTok that are better than YouTube. Everything's relative. But hey, we'll go with it. We'll see how it goes. If I lose a certain percentage of my audience, I was prepared for that, and we'll build new relationships here on this platform, and we're still on TikTok, and hopefully I'll retain people to watch the reruns there. People understand why I'm not the only one that made this move. All day New York City moved to Twitch, and every once in a while he'll do some TikTok stuff, and people will go like, Dan's back on TikTok. You know, here's Cleveland and Armitage. We could do the same thing. I could surprise some people someday. Hey, there we go. See the Chicago Hinge. Here we're looking straight east towards the lake, and there's the sunrise. There's your sun. See how it lines up. Last year we were able to see the Chicago Hinge right down Armitage, the east-west streets. I guess that's coming up this weekend. Probably Sunday and Monday would be the Chicago Hinge. Equal 7 hours of light, or 12 hours of light, 12 hours of darkness, around 7 a.m., 7 p.m. Sunrise, sunsets. We saw the sunrise yesterday. I got up earlier. How you doing there, doggy? Yeah, I surprised the dog there. Christy M, how you doing there? And thanks for tuning in. Yeah, we'll get more audience on YouTube. YouTube has a larger reach. As large as TikTok is, YouTube's even larger. And you know, some of my reruns are already coming up in searches. Like, I use the hashtags that people search for, like Board of Trade. Maybe they'll get my YouTube rerun of the Board of Trade there and learn something, you know. Not that I'm a educator or teacher. I'm just a guy. I'm not the authority on anything. I'm just a generalist. I like history and talk about cities, how the cities change over time. We got some great other Chicago live streamers that are urban planners that are doing great content and really go into the details. And I'm glad to have that we got some really good Chicago live streamers and on multiple platforms here. I saw Nick Koiken covered, there was yesterday Michael Anderson reminded us it was the actual anniversary of the Mexican Independence Day, and we saw a few people, much smaller gathering than the past 2 years, gathered at Michigan and Wacker to wave the Mexican flag there and celebrate their cultural heritage, which was great. Nick Koiken covered that, and it was like late at night. I got videos from 2 years ago where we saw all the cars on Michigan Avenue proudly displaying the Mexican flag there, and you should have saw the comments. You could still see them there. It's on YouTube. That was in landscape. And thanks to Ernie for covering, Ernesto. I think Chicago Nuggies, I think he was streaming already this morning. He was down by the museum campus there catching the sunrise. Ernesto, Chicago Nuggies, he covered the Mexican Independence Day Parade there on 26th Street in Little Village. Thanks for doing that. We went down there the last 2 years. I got reruns, of course. I was just literally too lazy off of traveling back to motivate myself to go down there this year. Starting to take it a little slower here. But hey, we're heading to work here. Yeah, look at the cathedral arch of these trees, Cleveland Street, Lincoln Park, Chicago. We'll go past the Old Town Market here. Yeah, YouTube all these years. Worked all the cities, union carpenter. That's great. Thanks for being a union carpenter there. Again, our condolences go out to the family of Drew Druzinskis. And yeah, I got to say his last name right. Drew Zinskis. He was big in the unions. He passed away unexpectedly. I think his sister saw the tribute video and she left a message. I left her as much as I could a very respectful sympathy note, and she was explaining they're still investigating the strange circumstances of his death in the pool there. It was just so shocking and unexpected. I saw him earlier this year. He's fully healthy. It was like a accident, but they don't know for sure. They're still seeing if there's anything more to it. But here, Cleveland Street, Lincoln Park, Chicago. What a peaceful morning here. And I gotta soak up this weather as we head into the long, dark gradient into winter there. There's the Old Town Market. There's the Old Town Market. Look at that. It used to be a storefront. It's not even on the corner. It's in the middle of the block. And that's why it's so interesting. This used to be a much more walkable neighborhood, and all these corner buildings had storefronts at one time, and pure mom and pop stores were here, whatever they were. But now they've all mostly been turned to residential, including the Old Town Market on the ground floor. What happened to this one? You see how they raised the windows so people like me walking by can't just look in. And I'm sure it's an interesting adaptive reuse on the ground floor. This one's an artist studio, and then there's housing above. They got a roof terrace there. There's some infill housing. This is Cleveland Street. Monday we went that way. We went past the Midwest Buddhist Temple or Center, but we'll just keep going down Cleveland. Here's the Sphinx. Here's the Sphinx. And here's the baby head, the baby Olmec heads. Marx Brothers sign on MLK. Well, I'll look into that. So there's a Marx Brothers sign on MLK. We've live streamed from MLK several times, both Parkway Gardens and the Bud Billiken Parade, because MLK used to be Grand Parkway. Goes all through the south side. Yeah, I'll look into that. I didn't know there was a Marx Brothers sign there. I should know that stuff. Thanks for the good info. And they stayed there when they were in town. Oh, that's good. Hey, I'm sure the Marx Brothers entertained in Chicago, all those in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. This was a happening town. That's why we're called the second city. We were the second largest city for a long period there, and we're a major stop on all the entertainment comedic circles there, and entertainers and musicians. Hey, look at the chalk art. We got all this chalk here. Yeah, you got the hopscotch, got the Pac-Man, the ghost from Pac-Man. That's a nice hopscotch there. You got boats and avoid sharks. Here's where you start. So this is, let's do this. See, here's the start. Find the treasure. There's the treasure. There's the boat. We go through, we got to avoid the sharks. You got to hop on all this stuff. Then you do the true hopscotch. Choose your ghoul. They got a bat and a witch and a ghost. Avoid the cars. They got a racetrack. And then you go to a railroad track, you get to the ice cream. So, hey, that's a nice hopscotch course there. See, simple things. Take simple things in the built environment. Everybody can spread joy by simple acts of art and creativity and kindness. We need that after you turn on the TV, cable news, and it's just a bunch of people yelling at each other. We need a respite from that. They'll call it civilization, and it's a bunch of people spreading lies and misinformation to manipulate profits and power and government, and demonizing certain groups they don't like, and they'll say, "Oh, we're for free speech." We know what happened to Charlie. I know that's horrible, and That's not acceptable. But you can't, then they'll be like, well, we're not for free speech over here. You got to be like Voltaire. You really got to. It's hard to respect the speech of people that you don't completely agree with. And hey, they got the windows open here, St. Michael's Church here. On the nice days like this, they open up the doors. I'll just take a peek in here. I'm not going to spend more than 10 seconds in here because I don't want to promote any one religion over the other, but the Catholic churches are so accessible especially when they open the doors like this. This is St. Michael's here in Old Town. I'll take my hat off, and there's the statue to St. Michael the Archangel. And yeah, let's go through the doors here. And if we go through the center one, it'll line up with the altar here. St. Michael's Catholic Church here, Old Town, Chicago. Look at the stained glass windows. Yeah, this church was largely destroyed during the Great Chicago Fire. Jennifer You Should Eat talks about it a lot. They buried some of the relics, but they rebuilt it, even grander. And that the spire used to be the tallest point of a building in Chicago until the home insurance company, first skyscraper in 1886 or whenever that was built. St. Michael's Catholic Church here, Old Town, Chicago. There used to be a gate over here too. It was different than the, little village gate. It was I think it was associated with this church. Terry, how you doing there? Good morning there. Pete, yeah, Pete's tuning in. Christy, Teresa. So, usually in the fall, I might have missed it. I usually miss it for some reason. They have open house. They have you have to register and sign up online. Different neighborhoods throughout the city, they have Chicago open house where select buildings, people that volunteer or part of the program, I don't know if they're paid, open up their homes and gardens. We did it with the Dearborn Garden Walk, mainly to see the gardens. We didn't really. There's a few places we went inside the houses, but some of them they let you inside the houses. You could see the amazing fixtures and interior design. And I still need to check Jennifer, I think she got in the Wacker house, and I just been traveling. I need to check out her page there. Let's see if she posted the reruns there, because I want to see it. I want to see what the inside of that. The owner invited her inside. He had a fire going, and she spent several hours in there. And she was the perfect person to do it because she knows her history, and great content there. So here, Cleveland Avenue, St. Michael's Court, that's what they call this. They got a nice courtyard in there with housing. See the southern end, extreme southern end of Lincoln Park, Cleveland and Meyer here. We'll cross North Avenue. And yeah, there used to be an arch across here, but we'll go under the elevated train tracks and we'll head through the backside of Old Town here. Yeah, see, they tore down all the buildings on the north side of North Avenue when they widened it. That happened like 100 years ago. There's the CTA train there crossing. It's hard to see with the trees there, but there it is. So here, let's cross the street here. North Avenue's kind of hard to cross here. We'll wait till this car goes through and then we'll be able to cross here. We're looking, Wicker Park's that way. Once you cross the river, we're still heading into Old Town here. Old Town is the best town, the Black Barrel Tavern. But available for lease. Look at that door, but yeah, the Black Barrel Tavern's no more. We've lost so many restaurants and bars, and this continues. It's just people can't afford to eat out anymore. And all this talk about inflation coming down, it's not. They're just hoping we don't notice. All this little people where the billionaires you know, all the equity still flows to them, same as it ever was. The rich get richer, and we still got to go to work here. And hopefully our jobs won't be replaced for AI by AI. Look at how the ivy grows up there on the. It's almost romantic. You know, like the romantic poets and stuff. How nature takes over. They would show the old abandoned churches with nature the trees would start to grow up inside the church. You know, they would do paintings of it. Naya's tuning in there. That's good. Good morning. How you doing? Happy Wednesday. Yeah. Good morning. What's shaking? Yeah, I hate spending money on food. Housing and food's still my biggest expense. That's why I walk. Less money spent on transportation. Yeah, it takes longer. But here, pollinator habitat. This area's been planted with friendly flowers. Yeah, help out the bees and the butterflies and the birds, or like the hummingbirds. Think hummingbirds like nectar too. Base nectar. See, we got a sunken plaza. We see evidence of streets below the streets here on Cleveland. There was even some north of North Avenue there, but I was on the wrong side of the street. So if you just joined here, we're on the backside of Old Town here in Chicago, Illinois. We got about 65 degrees on a Wednesday. We're getting close to, we're already past 7 a.m., 7:07, September 17, 2025. And Cubs magic numbers 1. They win if they win today, or if this. I think I guess the San Francisco Giants are out of the wild card running now. Here comes the train here. Let's see if we can get the train. I don't know if I can see it through the. There it is. So you the trees cover it so well both ways you look at it. There's the brown or purple line heading north, or it's actually heading west at this point. Those tracks go east-west. They eventually turn north, and depending on which way they go, the purple line goes up to Red Line north of Belmont, and then the brown line after Belmont goes north and west. Oh, excuse me, how you doing? Sorry. Here, see how that's a used to be a commercial storefront. They turned into residential adaptive reuse on the ground floor. You see that all around this area because the real estate became so expensive and gentrified. Imagine how different this area was with just a block that way, or 2 blocks that way is Cabrini-Green. You go past Mohawk, and then you get over to Larrabee, and that's where the northern end of Cabrini-Green was. So this is like, they built this, you know, right as that public housing was being demolished. Look at the nice, but they light that up at night. They get some lights there. See, look, Better Homes and Gardens. You get that nice little side lot there. Put the little bench there. You got the grill. These historic facades, and then you got. See, these go back to the 1890s, and then these are infill. You can see these are newer construction that they still built in the neo-traditional style, somewhat, but it's very a little plainer or more plain. Lindsay's tuning in there. Hey, there you go. So yeah, so there are historic districts. I try to mention them, like the Old Town Triangle Historic District or the Mid-North Historic District. You know, there's requirements. That's what makes the housing even more expensive. They started those in the 70s, I think, when the Lincoln Park, what was it called? With some association, I forget the exact terminology. You know, and at that time, the city was in serious decline. People were moving out of the city in droves. The city was losing its tax base, just like Detroit and New York. People forget how bad it got in New York in the 1970s when Gerald Ford, you know, New York City financially needed to be bailed out, just like Detroit had to be, you know, same situation more recently. Chicago's always in a precarious financial, you know, the budget debt, mainly due to the pensions. But in the 70s, people were, because the interstates and various other reasons, you know, white flight during the civil rights movement, people moved out to the suburbs, and even Lincoln Park was in serious decline. It was more of a working class neighborhood, and Cabrini-Green was on the north side, a public housing project that only failed. See here, look at that, look at the, see, that's the actual ground level. See how the street was raised? We got a vault and a sewer system that's higher than the actual ground level. You see this more on the south and west side. We talk about the raised streets of Chicago. I know it's very confusing. People always push back when I talk about it, and they're like, what are you talking about? And I know not the whole city was raised, just the streets. They had to raise some of the buildings, but a lot of them they didn't, and then they had the sunken front yard, and you got crazy stairwells leading to the second floor. Here, see this is a mid-century modern apartment block, just kind of sitting here. This could be anywhere in the city. You see these like going to Midway Airport on the southwest side. You'll see that same color of brick all around Chicago, that kind of pukey beige. But here, this is called Evergreen Tower. But yeah, those historic districts, yeah, there are stipulations and, you know, somewhat protections. We still run across buildings we feel should be protected that suddenly disappear. There was a lot of tear down rebuilds in the 2000s, early 2000s, like the Family Matters house, which is in Lincoln Park. They used that for the intro of that sitcom, and you know that building was torn down, and they built a bigger building on top of it, and there's like a small plaque on the side of the building, but you can't even see it there. So here, Evergreen Terrace, there you see that's the top of the John Hancock 875 North Michigan. This is Evergreen Terrace housing apartments here. We're on Cleveland Street, and yeah, the Marshall Field Garden apartments are over there on Sedgwick. Yeah, again, see these infill. A lot of these lots were empty. So when Cabrini-Green was still here, a lot of this street was empty. It was empty lots, but they built this stuff on some of the empty lots, and then this stuff came later after the neighborhood was gentrified, and which means the housing prices went up astronomically, and the city was okay with that piece. It was increasing their tax base, but of course it pushed some people out, but not as many as you think. Besides Cabrini-Green, Cabrini-Green was the biggest loss of population. At one time, like 25,000 people lived in the Cabrini-Green there, and now it's like a few hundred left, if that. Here's because there's a small amount of housing still habitated there. This is an interesting building. We show it. This is a building with the cats. See how they got the green roof, and then you can park underneath there. They get the nice little triangle lot here. This is Cleveland Street, Lincoln Park. Cleveland is chic, S-C-H-I-C-K, chic place. And see how that angles over to, yeah, let's go over this way. This little alley street. Look how look at these balconies. These balconies got nice views. They can see the train and the skyline. They built this on this little leftover parcel. Hey, there's the sun. There's the sun with the sunglasses. Yeah. I like going this way because the Unity manufacturing, it just reminds me of Acme. It's like a caricature of what a warehouse would look like in the 1940s. Unity manufacturing. This is on Clybourn. Clybourn used to be a lot more industrial, especially north of North Avenue along the river. And there's still railroad tracks. Well, a few left. Look at these industrial windows. So a lot of the area where the industrial was, they replaced it with commercial, big box retail, and some housing. Some of them were converted to like loft housing that way. You see, this is infill. This is Clybourn. They got a protected bike lane. This is looking north and west. This is looking south and east. That's the One Chicago Tower there. And we'll cross the street here once we get up to the intersection here. Lindsay, Taco, Naya, Alvin, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, Alvin, sorry I had to restart the live there yesterday, right at the beginning there. I didn't do the settings right, and I restarted. I saw you were tuning in right at the beginning there yesterday. Thanks for that. Thanks for watching on YouTube. Our Canadian friends. Here's Clybourn, Goethe, Cleveland. We're in Chicago, Clybourn. See that? Look at that nice view you get to. That's housing in the foreground. Then in the back, that's the John Hancock, which is twice as tall as the buildings in the foreground, but just the perspective we're at. Miniman Press. Tabak Restaurant, Pakistani, Middle Eastern. They replaced that sign. It was really faded. This building looks like a CTA, a CTA train car, stainless steel. There, Tabak. Go to Tabak. Pakistani, Indian, Middle Eastern food. Right here on Clybourn. And here's some of the new housing that replaced Cabrini-Green. It used to be the tall towers of Cabrini-Green right around here. Of course, they built this big box retail. So it's like a suburban shopping center because there was so much land here that was vacated. Sox lost. Yeah, the Sox lost the Orioles. I saw that. I didn't want to mention it. It was such a close loss, 7-8. The White Sox. Thanks for posting that there, Taco. Rear to the rear, Michael. Thanks. So we got Domino's Pizza, Jawasco. There's a recruiting center. I wonder what that's for. Here's this motorcycle thing. There's a factory out here for the motorcycles. You get your motorcycle suit, protect your get your full protection so you can go 150 miles an hour on Lakeshore Drive and not lose your limbs there. Hopefully. Man, you ever see those motorcycle racing where if they ever wreck, you know, they're just flopping around there, you know, it's so dangerous. They go so fast. But they survive that. They know how to fall and tumble. And there's the train. See, there's the rising sun there. There's the elevated CTA train there going across. This is Division Street. Here, I'm running, I'm going. Here's my shadow. So, see, there's that Target. There's a fire station and a police station down there. This used to be where Cabrini-Green was. And you see how it's been replaced with, and this is mixed housing, whereas some of it's more affordable and some of it's market rate. And that was the intention, to replace the whole thing with stuff like this. It's been starts and fits. See how they got a parking garage underneath. And Cabrini-Green, the parking lots were all surface parking. It was big giant towers with surface parking lots, and they paved over a lot of the green space. There was little parks and stuff, but they weren't as nice as this. I do remember when I used to come to Chicago in the 1990s, and I moved here in 1999, and Cabrini-Green was all still up, even though it wasn't fully inhabited. But mostly, there were still people living there until as late as like 2010 in some of the areas. I mean, they dismantled it. But here, here we'll head over. We'll check on the progress of the Wayman Church. That's why I came this way. The Wayman Church, this old Swedish church that became an African Methodist Episcopal Church, AME. And Dr. Martin Luther King gave a speech here. And we were worried about it was in danger of being torn down. And I guess it's been, at least the facade's been saved by its being converted to 7 residential units with some parking on the side. And at least the facade. But there was a church over there that was torn down. It was like a Spanish revival style with a tiled roof, and they tore that down. It had a bell tower. They tore it down to build one of these low buildings here. But here's the skyline of Chicago. There's John Hancock, the One Chicago Tower, over to the Sears Tower. And I posted that we were at the Sears Tower at the bottom. We didn't go to the top yesterday. At lunchtime, we went to the Sears Tower and went in that food court there. Yeah, thanks, Taco. Thanks for tuning in there. What's shaking there? The bike lanes. Yeah. So I remember when there weren't any bike lanes. Now there are bike lanes, but yeah, they aren't used as much as we thought they would be. So yeah, you might have a point. But I use the bike lanes, and but I understand that it's still stressful for vehicle, bike interactions both ways. Most cyclists don't like the cars, and most cars don't like cyclists. But we got to find a way to coexist. That's the hardest thing. Here, look at that. He's driving the boom there. He's driving the, I wanted to call that it's a boom. Look at that. He's driving the crane there. There's the Wayman Church. See, it's under renovation. They gutted the inside, and they're rebuilding the rooms for residential housing. And this is the Wayman Church. It used to be African Methodist Episcopal AME, and it was a Swiss church. They took down that sign. I'm glad I pictured. And here's the new housing. Here's the new housing they built. There was an empty parking lot just south of here, right across from the Jenner Academy for the Arts. See, we're 1119 North Cleveland Avenue. This is the backside of Old Town. Here's the, see how it says, it was a Swedish Baptist church, and then it became a AME Episcopal church. But yeah, Dr. Martin Luther King gave a speech there about 1967, one of 3 churches when he lived on the west side of Chicago. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. lived in Chicago for a few years in the mid to late 60s. Here's this new housing. So thankfully they painted it. It was this drab concrete. Here they got a brick veneer. I guess this is the housing on Cleveland here, right across from the Jenner Academy of the Arts here, backside of Old Town, near north side of Chicago. This all used to be Cabrini-Green. This is where Dantrell Davis, the little kid, was gunned down in 1992, holding his mother's hand by rival gangs were taking sniper shots at each other from the rooftops of the Cabrini-Green. That was national news, just as disturbing as what happened to Charlie last week when a little kid is gunned down holding his mother's hand walking to school. That literally happened. And you see there's Dantrell Davis Way here in his honor. There's a politician with the same name, but it's a different guy. His name's Danny Davis, and I think he's actually the Congress representative of this area. But I don't think it's any relation. But here's Dantrell Davis, Cleveland and Hobie, Chicago, Illinois. Here, the new construction. We'll check out. Look at this. Yeah, look at that yellow and orange. That's interesting. But I bet you that the top floors have spectacular views. I'll show you the views they got here. And see, you can look to the Sears Tower. And yeah, look at this housing here. Mia, how you doing there? Yeah, welcome to Mia. Thanks for joining the really good supporters. I really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody that subscribes and supporting good content here like PBS. Thanks Mia for becoming a member. I appreciate it, and everybody else. And I don't expect that, I kept my subscription price as low as possible on TikTok. It was $2.99. I would joke that for less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks, or at least a Frappuccino, you could subscribe to my channel for a month. And but the prices are a little higher on YouTube. Somebody told me TikTok is making the minimum now for subscriptions like $6. So I wouldn't even be able to keep my low price. You see how there's little drains and manholes that you could step into. It's kind of, because there used to be streets and parking lots and things here. So there's underground sewers all throughout these empty lots. This empty lot is one of the ones left over from the Cabrini-Green, and here's the last. There's still some inhabited. We walked down that street 3 weeks ago, and here Oak and Cleveland, they got this fence stuff here. This is some of the last, and this was actually built earlier. This was built in the 1940s. This low-scale, 3-story public housing. This is the Francis Xavier Cabrini part. The green was the northern part, the higher towers. And see, Danny Davis. See, this is the politician with the similar name as Dantrell Davis, the little kid, 7th District, Illinois, re-elect. But see, this is all condemned, and this is some of the last remaining housing left of the notorious Cabrini-Green here in Chicago. And you see across the street, look at that juxtaposition. And that, I know that word is thrown around so much. This is the definition of gentrification, where we had public housing. People had to leave this area that used to be able to afford to live here because of the affordable housing. They can no longer afford to live here because the proximity to downtown and people, professionals, yuppies willing to live downtown and pay the high prices and force people that can't afford to live here for housing out. And this was getting old and condemned anyway. There's problems with the infrastructure and the utilities, and it's almost 90 years old, 80 years old anyway. So we'll see what replaces it. I don't think they're gonna stabilize it. And see, see where that building is right there? There used to be a church right there. It was a Spanish revival. It had like a tower, and they tore it down to build that housing. And so here, we'll head through here. There's some schools and stuff. But here we'll get in the shadow of the John Hancock. People come out and walk their dogs here. Here's the nice skyline views. You just got to make sure you don't step in a manhole. There's some empty manholes. It's almost like a path. There's a dew on the grass. I guess the dew point. There's the train. There's the train heading. We'll go down Orleans. There we'll go by. But here the sunset behind the John Hancock, so I can film it here. And we'll head towards the people walking the dogs here. One time we walked through here, and the people, they were having a birthday for their dog, and the little dog had a birthday hat on. And that was fun. That was over there. But hey, welcome to Chicago. Welcome to one of the empty lots left from kind of grew up after the public housing was dismantled. And they didn't just do it on the north side, they did it on the south side and west side. We lost the Robert Taylor homes on the south side and the Stateway Gardens, and we lost the Henry Horner homes on the west side. You used to be able to go out of United Center and you would see public housing just to the north there by the Green Line. And that's why they removed all the Green Line stations, and that's why the new Green Line station at Damon is controversial, because they're like, you're just building it for the gentrification, and when people that needed the station were there, they took it out. But you see where that cone is, there's some empty manhole covers there. So there's the One Chicago Tower. We'll see the CTA train there go up down the elevated tracks there. Izzy, how you doing there? Hubert, how you doing? Yeah, Cat O'Connor. Community garden, yeah, they got some community gardens in some of these empty lots. Yeah, several of them. Well, there's a lot of community gardens in these empty lots. Thanks for pointing that out. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Chicago here. We're heading to work here on a Wednesday. Hey, look at those glass balconies. Yeah, we need to bring back the streetcars. I'm all for that. And, you know, I just wish there was a third way. You know, I know we're in this existential battle between the left and the right, and it's going to get worse. The polarization's getting worse, not better. You know, we have these opportunities to come together after the disturbing events like what happened last week, and people on the right and the left use it as excuses just to divide us further, including the president. The president said he really doesn't care about bringing the nation together. He actually said that. He'd rather use it as a way to grab more power. And that should be, even if you like that guy, you know, that should be, you know, concerning all of us, in my opinion. Here, look at the that we don't have a president that can calm things down. We only have a president that can, you know, further anger and rage, because a lot of his political clout is based upon anger and rage, and you got to constantly feed that red meat to your base, you know. And if the trust in institutions is still eroding. You know, do you trust the FBI more or less after this? I don't trust them. I didn't trust him before, and I certainly don't trust him. And it's bipartisan. Even the right doesn't trust the FBI, and they're running it, you know. And it just cracks me up. But here, we'll head down Orleans Street here. Mary, bring back the streetcars. Hey, look, Rod Blagojevich. He's coming back. He's got to be on WTTW Chicago Stories. Rod Blagojevich. I can't believe, you know, I moved to Chicago in 1999, and I remember like around 2003, I got some political junk mail in my inbox, my mailbox there where I live. And I couldn't pronounce the guy's name. I'm like, who's this politician with this weird name? And it was Rod Blagojevich. I saw his bushy hair, and I was like, and he was just like running for Congress, I think, at that time. And then he ran for governor of Illinois, and we know what happened after that. And for a decade, that guy like dominated the political headlines, both with the scandals and him trying to sell the seat when Obama became president. And then he went on Trump's reality show and went to jail, and now he's back. He's hanging out with Lucky Chucky. And what's the lessons learned? He realized just to remain relevant in the public media space, even if it was a scandal, and he's still a household name. And wouldn't surprise me if he tries to make some political comeback. I don't know what he's eligible to run for or not, which is funny, because you think like the president being a convicted felon would eliminate him from running for public office, but no. So maybe Rod Blagojevich can run again. I don't know. Can he? Why can't, if Rod Blagojevich can't run again, why was Trump allowed to become president again? It just baffles me, these technicalities. But here's we're in Chicago talking about Rod Blagojevich because we saw him on a billboard. There's the purple line. There's the purple line heading into the Chicago station at Chicago Avenue in Chicago. Somebody's gonna ask where I'm at. There's the One Chicago Tower in Chicago on Chicago Avenue. There's the Sears Tower. We're heading towards it. We're heading down Orleans Street. We'll go past Mr. Beef there. We'll check it out there. People are watching the bear there. Good morning there, Lopez. How you doing there? Lopez 400. Cat, how you doing there? Yeah, it takes maturity to de-escalate. It's not in his playbook. There's the brown line heading north there. So here we'll do a check on Chicago gas prices here. We're heading towards Chicago and Orleans Street, Griddle 24, Urban Diner. There it is. The Shell Circle K here, Chicago and Orleans, $3.84 regular, $5 for V-Power. Wow. Circle K here. Here we'll cross Orleans here. Hey, Griddle 24. Yeah, Michael, I'm glad you're checking out the bear. Isn't that a nice show there? You can you see all you probably can recognize the Chicago scenes. They do film on location. And there's St. Joseph's Catholic Church. We missed it, but it's up that way. I guess we're waiting for the left turns here. But here, here's your Chicago gas prices, $3.84 at the Circle K Shell here. So here we'll cross Chicago Avenue. Go ahead. You see what that guy did? He turned left right when the lights started, even though there were people crossing, and he was supposed to wait until the oncoming, but he shot across there and I let him go. I could have been a jerk and gotten his way, and there'd have been a bunch of horns honking, but I didn't want to get run over. I see a big hunk of metal coming my way. I let them go first, even if they're in the wrong. It's because sometimes I'm in the wrong. Sometimes I'll be looking at comments and I'll be jaywalking and the car will be honking at me. I'm like, oh, I'm the idiot looking at my phone crossing the street, which there's a lot of those, including me. I'm sure I look like an idiot with the gimbal here, walking down the street talking like a mad fool. But hey, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Thanks for being alive. Hey, there looks like they're shooting a movie right here. They got some equipment. They might be shooting a movie right there, or a TV show. There's always, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Chicago Med, the Bear, the Shy used to do a lot of stuff. Are they still filming for that? A lot of on-location movies. But here's Superior in Orleans, Chicago, Illinois. How you doing here? Here's Club Lago. It's not Blago, it's Lago. We should turn this into Club Blago. With this classic little storefront here. Club Lago restaurant and lounge, Italian food there since 1952. Maybe we'll go by Gene and Giorgetti's here. Hey, they got the flags. I guess they had the flags out for Memorial or Labor Day. Excuse me, Labor Day. Mike Mikanori, how you doing there? Thanks for tuning in there. Chippy, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in. See, no parking on Wednesday. Here, we'll go by. Here's the Green Door Tavern. We got reruns of that. I might probably need to do a new one. We went into the Drifter, which is the speakeasy, the true historical speakeasy. It's in the building next to it. And then just south of there is Mr. Beef, which is the real life inspiration for the bear, the original beef. And there's the train heading through south on Frank Street. But here, Green Door Tavern. Yeah, let's cross over here. Let's check it out. Well, we'll stay on this side here. The light's just about to change. There's the Green Door Tavern. They light up that sign at night. And it got so much kitsch on the walls. It's a great place to hang out, the bar. You can just look at all the stuff they got on the walls. See, the Drifter used to be, the speakeasy was in the basement of this building. And in the Prohibition, you would go in this, which was a storefront, like a false front, and you go in the back, and there'd be secret entrances, passwords to get to the speakeasy, which was below there. And then Mr. Beef, that's Michael. So this is, you've seen this before, you've seen my reruns. This is Mr. Beef, the inspiration for the Bear, the TV show there on FX and Hulu. And they draw the curtains. The curtains used to be open. Hey, how you doing there? That's great. Yeah, he's heading in there. He knows exactly what I'm doing there. We're filming it's great storefront there. You go to Mr. Beef there on Orleans there. See, he gave us the peace symbol. That's great. You knew he was on camera there. And their business has increased since the show, which is good. And it might not be the best original or best Italian beef in the city, but it's adequate. And that's all we can ask there. I like it. Other people are like, oh, you gotta go to Johnny's in Elmwood Park. And I agree, Johnny's is probably the best, but I'm not always going to Elmwood Park. So here, let's head over to the L tracks here. New eyes since you started watching there. See, you see how they got, there he is, Jeremy Allen White. He's on the poster there, Mr. Beef. There it is. And Jay Leno supposedly slept in his car at that parking lot there. That car came out of nowhere. Here's a nice facade here. There, look at the train. Trains, planes, and automobiles. So here, we'll go down Franklin Street. We'll go under the L tracks for a while. Darren Moreau says, never walk under the L tracks. He's probably right. Pope's Pizza Place, yeah. The Chicago Pope, yeah. The Chicago Pope celebrated his 70th birthday there in the Vatican. I saw Pharrell Williams and Will.i.am was there, and they had the drones flying around. It was a big party there. And of course, he's a White Sox fan, which is great. Here, Concrete Cowboy. So this is, Fairgrounds Coffee. This is Huron. Is this Huron? This might be Erie. Erie and Franklin here. Yeah, let's cross the street here so we can check out VBS Kings here. They got a nice mural. But here, underneath, this is underneath the Franklin Street. They use this in the Blues Brothers briefly in the car chase scene. And yeah, we'll head down towards Ontario here under the L tracks along Franklin. Yeah, Cubs versus Pirates is a huge game there. Thanks, Taco, for posting that. I think the Cubs' magic number's 1, so all they have to do is win today, and they're in the playoffs as the wild card leader. Hey, Chance the Rapper, we saw him at the Bud Billiken parade. And there's Common, Chief Keef, King Von, all these amazing hip-hop artists. And here's the Michael Jordan, the Blackhawks. There's Walter Payton, Iron Mike Ditka, Cubs and the Sox. VVS Kings. There it is. And here's Soundbar. Soundbar, it's an EDM dance club type of place. Soundbar. They got all the, there's Surf Mesa. Yeah, the Riot Fest is going on this weekend, I think, in the Douglas Park, one of the parks there. Riot Fest is going on. Lord's going to be at United Center. And they got some art festivals and some other things going on this weekend. What time we got here? Let's see. Let's check on the time here. 7:41, Wednesday, September 17th, 2025. Dave's Hot Chicken. That used to be Al's Beef. Now it's Dave's Hot Chicken. Yeah, thanks for the time there. Yeah, Christy, we'll see if the Cubs can clinch a playoff berth there. I think the first time since 2020. And I don't remember much about the 2020 season. That's when they had to play with cardboard cutouts of people in the stands. Remember that? It was a kind of a messed up season because of the pandemic. I guess the Cubs made the playoffs, but I don't remember them doing anything that year. So they must have just fizzled out. Across the street here. This is Orleans. People go to get to the highway this way. But hey, Dave's Hot Chicken. Used to be Al's Beef, but at least it's something. Something's better than nothing. Yeah, let's walk down Wells Street here a little bit. You got these nice storefronts here. Ricky, how you doing there? Ricky Salgado, Grim Evil, good morning. How you doing? Yeah, we're already down in River North here. We're almost to the River Walk here. See, since I'm on YouTube, Green Rose. There's a dispensary right here on Wells. I always felt like a little kid, like I was, you know, at the table and the parents were like speaking code words, like we had to use code words on TikTok because I've had bad luck, you know, just mentioning a place even though it's illegal in this state. Look, there's the Bear Champ. So a lot of JC Rivera's work, whatever restaurant commissioned it, the restaurant's no longer, and we'll see how long his artwork lasts because that's what happened to Broken English Taco Pub. But Broken English Taco Pub shut down there in Old Town and they already painted over his Bear Champ murals. So at least we filmed them. We got reruns of it. And here, we'll cross here. Bless your heart. Yeah, look at that. Bless your heart. The Bear Champ. See, the Bear Champ gets beat up but keeps on fighting. There, look at this great view. You get to the Sears Tower, O'Leary's Public House. Of course, what's this named after? Mrs. O'Leary's cow, which is the apocryphal story of how the Great Chicago Fire started. It was an urban legend. They blamed it on Mrs. O'Leary's cow when it was probably Peg Leg O'Sullivan, a drunk guy that tipped over a lantern and ran out and told people the barn was on fire and blamed it on Mrs. O'Leary's cow. But you always need someone to blame. And in the 1800s, they would usually blame the Irish in this city. There, Gilda's Club Chicago, an affiliate cancer support community. Gilda's Club, Gilda Radner, of course, she came through the Second City. Gilda's Club in Chicago, right here, 537. You can support this. She, of course, died of cancer. Gilda Radner, but great comedian with Saturday Night Live. Came through the Second City with John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd and all the other greats that we go by there. Here's Matilda's Mexican cuisine. We're here on Wells Street. Ricky, how you doing there? This is a nice building here. Look at this recent addition to the skyline there. There's the train. There's the train going across. This is Grand Avenue, I think. Yeah, Grand Avenue. Here's the Anti-Cruelty Society on Wall Street. It goes all the way over to LaSalle. You got a Gilda's Club in Louisville. That's great, Terry. Now it's all over the place. Isn't that great? I'm glad you got a Gilda's Club in Louisville. They're in other cities. Thanks for pointing that out. Here's the Anti-Cruelty parking garage. And here's a No vacancy. Oh, the Bears. You see somebody did a parody of Hello Darkness, My Own Friend, the Simon and Garfunkel song, to the Bears. And they're a bunch of, you know, the classic Chicago accent embellished, singing a sad song about the Bears did it to us again. They got our hopes up, and they're the same Bears that 0-2, and even despite new coach, same as the old Bears, the bad news Bears. So here we'll cross Illinois Street. Here at Wells, you got the bike lanes. This is one of the most well-used bike lanes, at least in the urban streets here. Besides the lakefront bike path is probably, of course, the most well-used. Here we'll go by Lou Malnati's. They're all over the place. We of course go by the Lou Malnati's on State Street. This is the one on Wells in Chicago. Lou Malnati Chicago style pizza. Yeah, some people need some anti-cruelty. You're right. We need an anti-cruelty society for humans, not just animals. We need to expand the mission. Yeah, it's hard to watch the news coming out of Gaza. I know it's they're doing it in the defiance of the United States too, and same with Russia with Ukraine and flying drones into Poland. They're taunting us. And what would Ronald Reagan do? I don't think. You know, see, you know, but here's the Kellogg's here. Let's head over to, we'll cross the street here and we'll head to LaSalle here. Yeah, that car's turning there. I was hoping to catch the train going across there, but so this Foxtrot's back open. For over a year it was closed, and now it's back open. A lot of the Foxtrots. Here it comes. There we go. So here's the brown line. Around in the bend in front of the Kellogg's. It dodges over from Wells. It goes over one block to Franklin. Hey, scenes of the city. Anglo-Saxon. What about the Jutes? G-U-T-E-S, the old, back to the Druids and the Gaelic people, and then came the French, you know, yeah, but Anglo-Saxons and pushed into England from Denmark and Germany somehow, Scandinavia. Look at those balconies there. So here we'll head over to LaSalle. We should get a view to the Board of Trade. We'll go down the Chicago River there and head to work here on a Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to YouTube. Hey, there's the one Chicago Tower. Look at that. So there's that, used to be that, it's called Hub 116. It's like a co-location work spot there. Here, yeah, let's cross the street here. So when we look south on LaSalle, I'm going to zoom in and see if I can get the Board of Trade. There's the Board of Trade. So I posted that rerun yesterday, our lunch walk. We walked down LaSalle. We got a great rerun of the Board of Trade, and we also went inside the Rookery. So check out those shorts. I cut out shorts for those, and I'll transfer it over to TikTok. And here we'll head down LaSalle, the historic financial. Once you get south of the river, there's financial district. But it's in constant state of flux, as is the whole city. Neighborhoods change over time, and so does the Loop. Loop's more residential now than ever. Yeah, if you like this, hit the thumbs up there. Thanks for liking the live. Helps more people find this content. Hey, there's the Chicago Alley. And you see here where that car just pulled out. The trolleys used to go underneath. Michael Jordan used to have his restaurant in that brick building that used to be the power plant for the cable cars. And here, let's head over this way. They got some lights up here, but there was a tunnel that went underneath the river. for the trolleys in the old days of the cable cars. Hey, you got the flags out here. Oscar, what flag is this? Oscar Isberian Rugs. Spiritual Boutique. Crystal Incense Tarot Cards. There you go. There's the CVS. I remember during the pandemic, this CVS was destroyed. Now it's back. Hey, there's people head through here. Yeah. Mercado. I love when people cover their face when they see me coming down. There's cameras on every corner. Do you cover your face every time you're at any corner? I know they don't want to be on my content. I understand that. And you're allowed to cover your face when you see me walking or tell me not to film me, and I'll film something else. But people see a live streamer, they cover their face like you're not on 100 other cameras. If you took a CTA or went to the airport, you know. I always see people opting out of the facial recognition thing for the TSA, but you're on camera the whole time you're going through TSA, so they got your face. Trust me, they got your face. So it's all just for show, you know. So I too am worried about the invasion of privacy. But you realize this is all you got. This is all you got to fight back. They're filming you, so you got to film them. And if you don't film, they have all the power. You know, I'm talking about whoever has the camera surveillance. Everything you go online, they're tracking everything you're online. People think this illusion of privacy. Good. You know, I had to make the same. I used to avoid being on social media. Now look at me now. I'm on it all the time. You can't beat it. You got to join it. You know, and I'm sorry to break the news. You know, people are like, show your face. You know, I would always try to go these great lengths to not show my face. People still recognize my voice in the street, even if when they don't know what I look like, they find out what I look like, they hear my voice. And, you know, it's the way it is. So go ahead and cover your face when you see me. We got lucky. So good luck, you know. It's actually based upon a Philip K. Dick novel. Philip K. Dick, of course, wrote the book that was the inspiration for Blade Runner. He's a science fiction dystopic future writer, contemporary of Isaac Asimov and Ray Bradbury and all those guys. Philip K. Dick. If you read his books, a lot of movies, including the one I'm talking about, Scanner Darkly. He was written by Philip K. Dick, and it was like a cartoonish, live-action hybrid. Woody Harrelson and Winona Ryder were in it, and Robert Downey. What was his name? The guy that's Iron Man. But that's what that's about. The guy was trying to keep anonymous, so he'd wear this suit where his face would change constantly, so people couldn't discover his identity. But you had to maintain that, and it was impossible. And in the future, everybody would be, you know, worried about their privacy, which is what we got. You know. So when I see somebody covering their face, I said, well, hey, they must not want their wife to know they're in Chicago, is what it is. I get that, and I don't blame them, because, you know, it's hard to be anonymous, to sneak around. There's all those videos of spouses and significant others trying to look at their partner's phone, and people resist. Resist their last little bit of privacy, even with their spouses. So here we're crossing the Chicago River, and we're near the but these are the dilemmas of the modern era, you know. And the way the law is, if you're in the public street, you're allowed to film me, I'm allowed to film you, and I try to respect people. People ask me not to film, I won't film them. I want to respect their privacy, and you're in the background. I'm not shoving the camera in your face. If people engage with me, I talk with them, and they let me know. They'll walk away if they don't want me filming them, which is good. I don't blame you. So here, Wacker Drive. Let's head down to the Riverwalk here. We'll round it out here, and we'll head over towards Michigan Avenue. We got 7:55 in the a.m. here, Chicago Riverwalk, Wacker Drive. We just crossed the river there on LaSalle Street. I guess people look at me and they think government surveillance. They think I'm the undercover police, the thought police, the dream police. Remember the Cheap Trick song, The Dream Police. There. Oh, we actually crossed at Clark Street. We went a block over, so we crossed the river at Clark Street. We're already over to Dearborn here, the Marina Towers, the Westin. Hey, we're by the tiny tap here. Sit here by the river, the green river, the Green River. Look at this. They got a little creepy doll. Creepy doll here. Is that from like the Saw or something? To get some Halloween stuff out. Yeah, I know. Do you see that, Terry? Yeah, they didn't see me. It's all a vast conspiracy against them. I'm a paparazzi trying to track their every move when they're in Chicago. You know, I understand people. I don't expect people to like the fact that, you know, at least I make it obvious. I'm not trying to do it clandestinely. Wait till people got cameras in their glasses. They're already selling the Google Glass and the camera in the glasses. You won't be able to tell people are filming you when you're sitting at them at the table. And people will use it for AI. They'll record conversations so they can retrieve them like your brain, like your memory. The internet will become an extension of our brains where we're like, what did that person say? And then we can rewind it. And because it's hard to keep everything in our heads, at least it is for me here. Hey, Ricky, how you doing there? Chicago River. Thanks, McCrae. Thanks for the good message there. Yeah. Yeah, I can't say the G word. Grift. G-R-I-F-T. That's reserved for the government. Hey, look at that. There's the Marina Towers. Rosé all day. City Winery. Yeah, get your wine. See, they're still working on the State Street Bridge. Hey, walking the dog there. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, you notice that, McCray? So I've been doing this. I think it's just because there's so many more people live streaming now. And I've been doing this for 2 years. There were people like Dan All Day New York City that have been doing it since the 2020s. You know, and Dale Talk was doing it way before I was doing it. So people really didn't know what live streamers were doing. When I first, the security guards that didn't have any idea what to make of me. And then once they started figuring it out, then they started saying don't film. But at first they had no idea what I was doing. And now there's so many, you know, all the Chicago live streamers, people confuse me with other, Drew got confused with me, I got confused with Drew all the time because we had red hair. But, and Nick Hoykin, my hair's not as red as his. But now since there's so many more live streamers, people are more aware of it. And that's why I've just noticed this year people are starting to cover their face. They weren't doing it last year because I think they weren't aware of what was going on. But now they're aware there's these things called live streamers because they encounter our content online and they're like, oh crap, there's these people walking around filming everything, and people don't like it, and I understand it. Here's the water taxi, but we're filming the city. We're filming. You're part of the. We're all actors in the vast stage here, just like Shakespeare. We're all part of the cityscape here. You know, you travel to Chicago, you become part of the cityscape. You go to New York, you're part of the New York Minute there. You know, we're all extras in the movie set that is Chicago or New York, and people do try to become extras when they film the shows here, so you can be part of my show, the Brian Show. And McCrae, Taco, thanks everybody. Chris. Oh, Chris, people love it when they're like, people love Chris. They're like, we like it when you hang out with that guy because we can bounce off each other. And that's why it's good, you know, Jennifer teams up with Nick, and Overtime Seb and Ernie, they all team up. They can bounce off each other and it becomes more interesting content. The same with Chris. Chris hangs out with Jen and Nick and me. Here's the flags are still at half staff here at the Vietnam War Memorial. We'll head up here to get to work here. There's the Marina Towers. Corn cob buildings, it's corn. Big lump of knob. See, they got the Oktoberfest flags there at the brewery. So hey, have a good Wednesday here. Thanks everybody. We still got another block to go here. We'll try to get the train going around the bend there at the loop. Hey, the fountains are still on. Here's this haunting relief of the Statue of Liberty with her outstretched arms, the huddled masses yearning to be free. And now I fear the Statue of Liberty. She's covering up her face, shaking her head, is what America's becoming. Here's George Washington, Robert Morris, and Hayne Solomon. Here, let's cross the street here. Let's get across the street. There's the 17th Church of Christ Scientists. There's the Wrigley Tribune, Trump Tower. Carbide. Here's the Jewelers Building. And there's the clock tower there. Yeah, let's get across this street here. Hey, they're playing the opera. So here we'll cross Wabash. Opera in the morning. So they're repaving Wabash here, grounding off the asphalt. There's the train. So there's the train rounding the bend, the north east corner of the loop. Scenes of the city. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hope you have a good Wednesday. We'll be on at lunchtime there, the lunch bunch. We'll continue this journey. L7 hotels. There's the Emerald Loop. Emerald Loop's right there. Here comes the brown line the other way. One train goes one way, one goes the other. Scenes of the city, Loop of Chicago. We'll go by the Virgin Hotel here. Hang out with the pigeons. They must have watered plants. There's water all over the sidewalk. Hey, they got the Lips couch here. There's the Ricky's Lips couch, just like Rolling Stone. And there's the Virgin Hotels. That's why they got it there. How you doing? Hey, they're working. Yeah, they're working on the street here. Men at work. They were over there. Now they're over here. In the hole here. So here, let's head to work. Let's go to Michigan Avenue. This could be you. Somebody yesterday asked me to check on the parking prices there. $6 for the first 20 minutes. Early morning special, $16 if you're in before 10 o'clock. $16 is not too bad. Much cheaper than the $77 to valet overnight. 60 East Lakeshore Self Park. Imperial Shoe Services. But here, there's the Prudential 2 Tower. And there's J.C. Rivera's good work there, the Bear Champ. This Broken English Taco Pub still in operation. Here's Garland Court. It goes back to the Mather Tower. There it is. It's hard to see it. There it is. Couch had too much filler. Yeah, it's hard. It's made out of concrete. It's painted. It's not soft at all. It's just a concrete lips. But here's Michigan Avenue. We made it to Michigan Avenue. We'll cross here. I'll head to work here, Lake in Michigan, Chicago, Illinois. And yeah, let's check it out here. People sitting there. Yeah, we'll check out this nice view you get looking up to the Wrigley building. The begonias are looking good. Yeah, see, there it is. Look at this nice view you get to the John Hancock looking straight up Michigan Avenue. There's the Wrigley building. Michigan Avenue looking north. The river's that way. Usually we cross the river up there, but we crossed it at Clark Street. Then we'll cross the street here. We'll head to Fox News is over here. Sometimes on Fridays they have a Bears pregame show, but they might not be into it this year. There's Nando's Nutell's. We'll see it at lunchtime. But here's this great view you get to the Wrigley building crossing Michigan Avenue. So hey, have a great Wednesday, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to my mods. I know we get less engagement here on YouTube, but it's worth it. There's reasons. And I'll still post the reruns to TikTok. Have a great day there. We'll see you at lunchtime, noon to 1 there. And it's going to be a beautiful day, so get out there and enjoy it. Thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you soon there. Thanks, Grim Evil Taco, T-Line, Tea Time, Terry C, Michael Rodriguez, all the Michaels, Michael Anderson, D. Michael, and Lambie T. And thanks to the people that the new members there. Thanks for supporting my content. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you later. Mia, I think Mia signed up there. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.